All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone your body is in right now. I know mine's somewhere over the Rockies right now. It doesn't know quite what's going on, and I'm going back to Dallas today, so it's going to be all messed up tomorrow. But thank you for coming out, joining me today, and we're going to talk about performance testing your apps out while you sleep. I mean, who wouldn't like to do that? You get to performance test while you're asleep, right? So again, my name is Tyler Dukes. I am a, DevOps engineer, and I am with PDI, which is a leader in enterprise management software for the convenience, retail, and petroleum industry space. I've been with them for over 4 years, and primary responsibility is performance testing. And I also want to make one quick other introduction right here. This is Brandon Karcher. He is my Vanna White for today because just like texting and driving is not a good idea, presenting and driving on a stage is really not a good idea. So I don't want to do any crowd surfing or crowd diving off the stage. So he's going to help me out here while as I walk and talk a little bit around as we go through things today. All right, so thank you, Brandon, for helping me out today. So as we're going to get going, I need y'all's help. We're going to get going. I know we got food going. We've had the general session today. So break out your phones, or if you're on your laptop, you can do this too. So I need y'all to either go to pollev.com or on your phones, you can go text Tyler Dukes 293 to 22333. That again is Tyler, Tyler, Dukes, Dukes, 293 to 22333, or pollev.com and go ahead and enter in Tyler Dukes 293. I'm going to get y'all going this morning, get y'all going with me. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the first question. Now, I will say the first question that we have going, everything is anonymous. It's okay. I'm not recording anybody's responses. So as we're talking about exercise, and I figured it'd be fun, like if you could exercise any way, and it's like the best exercise for you ever, would you rather A, run along the beach, B, hike a mountain, C, swim with dolphins, or D, hang 10 and couch surf? All right? I know it's some really hard choices there. I know which one I would pick. All right, we got some results coming in. All right, running on the beach, hiking mountains, swimming with dolphins. Okay, not seeing a lot of Netflix going on. I think that's awesome. All right, getting out there, enjoying the world. Okay, look at it coming in. Oh, hiking the mountains, winning out. All right, we're going for the top. I know that's Brandon's favorite. He grew up in Colorado, so he likes hiking mountains. Oh, there he's going. I think he's going to win out. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and keep going on. So my next question is, switching gears to actually performance testing, how often is performance testing executed where y'all are at, right? So again, all answers are anonymous. Your bosses will never know what you answer, right? Is it scheduled? Is it a part of your CI/CD pipeline? Is it right before a deployment? Or is it once the issue's found? And I think we're all at different places on this journey of performance testing and providing quality features and code to our customers. So I just wanted to kind of get the gauge of the room, see where we're at. All right, so we got a good mixture here. You know, some is scheduled right before the deployment. Some is, hey, once the issue is found. We've all been there. We've all done that at like 2 in the morning, right? You know, so cool. Oh, you're good. You're good. So next, here's a question that I don't hear come up often: is how often is your performance testing updated? Right? Is it yearly? Is it quarterly? Is it by release? Is it just as you need it, or is it, I don't know, but I'm probably going to go ahead and put it on my to-do list right now kind of deal? Because that's a really good question, right? And we can all be honest. Hey, there you go. I mean, yeah, as needed, by release, quarterly. Okay, so it's as needed is definitely winning out. Okay, this is good. This is very good. All right. So you can see we've kind of, the whole breadth of this room is kind of all over the gamut. So I'm going to make a quick calibration here. Go ahead. And so I'm going to define for us, just so we're on the same page, for this talk, the difference between functional testing and performance testing, because I want to make sure we're using the same terminology. So functional testing today, for what we're going to talk about, really it's just, does it work with a single user? Is QA working? Does it make a blue circle if you're asking it to make a blue circle, okay? But performance testing is really, does it make a blue circle when 1,000 people do it all asking your system to make a blue circle? Or how about 10,000 or 42? different things like that. So we're talking volume, okay? So I want to make sure we're all on the same page there. So I put together a little just example that we can all relate to. So in January, our example company, we're done performance testing, and we see, we have these 4 calls. And these are our main calls that we're doing. 10% is like just a simple get call. 20% is a put call, 30% is a post call, and 40% is a get call. And you know what? We gather that information, we dedicate our performance testing to this, and we align it. Okay, we test, we're good. Okay, we keep going on. A couple months later, now it's May, and now our customers are starting to change how they interact with us. So changing how they interact with our system. Maybe there's a promotion going on, something. But we can see now our mixture of calls is starting to even out, right? It's about 25% across the board. But some of the percentages, the actual rate of change, have gone up and down, about 50%. That's a big difference for, if you're doing calls and how much they're tied to. But you know what? Maybe you can get away with living it. We're not going to worry about updating the performance testing quite yet. So now it's September, and your users have completely flip-flopped how they're interacting with you. That get calls now over 30%. That used to be 10%, and vice versa. The post calls now drop 10%. And everything is inverted. But you're like, Tyler, these are just like get calls. It's not really that big of a deal, right? But what if we said our first get call, that was only at 10%, had a really costly database query associated with it, right? This is like pulling an entire account history for a client or a transaction history for a customer, right? So your DBAs have tuned this. We know that it doesn't get executed often. It's a heavy query. We're like, okay, we're okay with this right now. As long as we're not getting overwhelmed, we're going to be okay. But same thing again. We tested, but we don't update yet. Now it's May. Now we're starting to change. Now that query is getting hit more and more and more. DBAs are starting to sweat a little bead. A little bead of sweat's coming down. And then by the time you get to September, everything is completely flip-flopped, and your DBAs are freaking out. They're going, oh my gosh, what's going on? Why is this getting hit so much? Why haven't we tested for this? You're getting asked from business. Our customers are having a bad experience. It could be a 7-1 issue. You could be 3 a.m. in the morning trying to figure all this out, going, this query is not good. It's getting executed a lot. We got to figure something out. But somebody asked, hey, didn't we test? So the question is, how do I keep up with my customers, right? Because gathering statistics and doing all that stuff, it's a lot of work, and updating your standardized testing and everything. So with that, what we found at PDI so far is that we're going to couple Jenkins, which is a automation orchestration platform, with Akamai's Cloud Test, which is a performance testing tool, which is where we have found so much benefit from. So I'm going to start talking about Akamai Cloud Test. So I found this really good quote that kind of goes with what we're doing today. Edward Stanley, who was the 15th Earl of Derby, was really big in the early 1900s into health and science, said this: those who do not find time for exercise would have to find time for illness. So if you're not taking care of your body now, you're going to take care of your body when you're sick. You're going to be forced to. And I think if we translate that to our world, to our tech world, right, if we don't intentionally performance test, just like we intentionally QA our work, we are going to find time to have to figure out how to performance test this once we find that issue in production, right? And then now we're paying interest on that. Now we're paying interest with customers impacted with a bad experience. Our business is going, hey, what's going on? We're missing out revenue here, right? We got internal teams that are now scrambling off the projects that they were working on, having to go fix an issue that they thought they've already moved on for. So we're going to go ahead and so with Akamai Cloud Test, there's a couple parts that I think really set us up for a good foundation, right? So the first is we need to standardize our load test. So just like any good testing, we need to have it repeatable results. So this is, for us, we've built a whole standard of suites, and that way when we put in new code or we add in a new feature or do X, Y, or Z, we can run our standardized suite, and we know that the only thing that's going to change is what we're changing, right? We can compare result A to result B, and we know we can repeat those over and over and over. So that's part one of Cloud Test. Now, on top of that, we've added a layer of business logic onto it. So this is more than just, okay, we have a get call, we have a put call, we have all these API calls that we're all stacked together. We've gone through and added, okay, what are our users' top 5 flows, if you will? All right, so we've added flow 1, flow 2, flow 3, flow 4, and we figured out how we can then set those up. So now we have a percentage of our traffic that's going through flow 1, a percentage is going through flow 2, and we're doing this all within the same test, and we can do it repeatably. And then because of our ecosystems are always growing so fast, we do our best to make sure that everything we're doing is a nested clip. So what I mean by nested clip is we're building little building blocks of code within Cloud Test that we can reuse over and over again. So we will make a clip that is maybe just a balance call, but we're going to make it flexible enough so we can get a balance call and maybe a transaction history call and all these things, so we can line them up and we can build them in building blocks into a larger script, kind of orchestration script. So you don't have to continually repeat writing the same call over and over and over, because it gets mind-boggling and frustrating after a while, okay? The next thing we do is we're going to use variables to control our business logic. So just like in coding, we don't like to hard code anything in if we can't help it, right? It's not really a good practice. So the same thing with our business logic. We want to use variables. So I have put this in just to where I can say, you know what, I want something to run 30% of the time. So I'll put it in, make a variable, have it 30. If it's less than 30 over 100, let's go. Okay, so this way I can just update one place instead of multiple places in my script for this flow to execute, and then I'm done. And if I need to go back and I need to change it, like we need to do to keep up with our customers, I'm doing it one place, not multiple places. So you add all this up together, and it gives us a really good foundation to really build off, right? This gives us a good test. Now we can see and we can try to replicate to our best of our ability what our customers are doing. Right? But we still have that second component of, all right, we got to keep up with our customers. But to see what this is going to look like, right, to our flow control, right, and this is what I was talking about, it's a simple if statement. It's not, you don't have to go complex JavaScript coding in Cloud Test to do this. You can put a simple if statement with a variable that, hey, I have a random number, it's between 1 and 100, and then I have my flow control, I call it flow control for flow 1, and I say if I want that less than 30%, put it in, and there it goes. It just runs. It's really simple to do. And then we can add in whatever we want to do underneath. So we'll keep going on. So the second part of this, again, is Jenkins. This is where we start adding layers. This is where we can add our automation in. This is where we can have it start doing a bunch of these things for us to really multiply our time and our efforts and close that feedback loop. So this quote really goes well with Jenkins, I believe. It's, don't have $100 shoes with a 10-cent squat by Louis Simmons, who is an American powerlifting champion. He's got several gyms out. Dude is like jacked, all right? So if we translate this to our IT world, is we can have this really great tool in Cloud Test, but if we're not testing what our users are doing, what are we really doing, right? We're not testing realistically. We're not testing to what's going to happen in our production environment. So we got a great tool, but if we're not using it correctly, we're not feeding it good information, we're not going to get good results. We're not going to see good results in production. Okay. So Jenkins, again, just overall is an orchestration platform. Now, for those of you that might have little experience with Jenkins, there are 2 different versions of Jenkins out there. There is a community version, and then there is also an enterprise version. This is all done using the community version. Just want to throw that out there, so you're not needing to go buy another product with Cloud Test or anything like that. You can do this right at home. But the first thing is we got to gather stats from our production environment to understand what our customers are doing, right? We got to understand that, and that can be tedious, but that's going to look different for every one of your environments. You got to figure out how that is for you. So once you figure that out, put it in a script, and then we can let Jenkins make a job, and that can run on a periodical basis or as needed. So you can go out there and have it do all the work for you, because you don't want to do that over and over. So we're going to have that go gather all this information on what we're doing. Maybe those different types of flows or the percentage of different calls that are going to be hit. The next part is automation with Cloud Test. So Cloud Test has a built-in CLI called S-Command. And with S-Command, we can now remove the GUI part. We can start removing the human element of our standardized testing, running that, and pull it now into a script form using S-Command. And now we can have S-Command built into a Jenkins job again. There again, now we're doing a one-button click to go maybe spin up a grid in our load servers for our standardized testing, run our suite of testing. Now it pulls results, it's done, it tears down the grid, emails you the results. Either you're good or you're not, right? Now it's just click a button, go do something else. And the next part of this is we're going to now couple those first two parts together into a pipeline, a Jenkins pipeline. So this orchestration pipeline, you can set this up and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to run this pipeline. I want you to go gather all these statistics. Now, let's use S-Command to start our test. But since we have all these statistics gathered, I'm going to go ahead and inject all this new data that I got into variables that we've previously set up in our cloud test. So that way, maybe our flow 1 is not going at 30% anymore. It's now at 60. And we're just going to tell it right off the bat. Additionally, once you get that done, you add this all together with all the different elements that the cloud test provides, the analytics, you can add in SLA checks, pull this all together. Now you have truly dynamic testing that can keep up with your customers based on actual data, not just, well, we think this is going to happen, and we think our users are doing this, but now we got hard facts to back it up, and we're doing it by a simple click of a button. Okay? But you're like, is it really this simple to set up Jenkins? Am I going to have to spend like a ton of time setting all this stuff up? Right? Is the S-Command, setting up the CLI, to get this all running really easy? And after doing it, I'm saying yes. You know, I know yes is very relative, but yes, I mean, it's really easy. The S-Command is one S-Command. You're not writing a 100-line script to go out there and fire off these grids and do everything. You can get this all done in one S-Command, one CLI command. It's going to be really that simple. Okay? And actually, go back real quick for 1 second. As I'm not a fan of code on the screen, I'm not putting the S-Command up here, but afterwards, I have an example, so if you really would like an example of what this looks like, talk to me, I'll hook you all up. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it to y'all, so just throwing that out there real quick. Okay. But you're saying, hey, Tyler, I want to do this like while I'm sleeping. I don't even want to click a button, right? So the great thing about Jenkins is that we can just schedule this. So they have this thing called a build periodically. It looks really similar to a cron tab if you're used to working with those. And you can set it to run every other Tuesday, once a month, once a quarter, every third Thursday, every other hour, whatever you want to do. You can have this whole pipeline to set up, go gather statistics. Oh, cool, got my statistics. Let me start a test up, feed in new information, run a test, get results. Are we good or are we not? And that's the great thing is where you can get this to where you schedule it at night, you walk in the office in the morning, do we have a problem or not, right? And then you can start working on the problem if there is one. You're not having to wait for a test to finish. You're not just burning time, okay? So I'm going to kind of finish this kind of section with this. Just like in bodybuilding, failure is also a necessary experience for growth in our lives. For if we are never tested to our limits, how will we know how strong we really are? How will we ever grow? By the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I figure if anybody knows about working out, this guy knows, right? So translating this again into our world, right? We have to test. We have to know where our limits are for our customers, for our users. And for performance testing, there's not really a finish line. This is a very, it's not an infinite, it's an infinite thing. It's always iterative. You're always finding new things, new things to tweak, tune, and our customers are always changing. We're coming out with new features, right? So we need to constantly keep updating these things. But with knowing our limits, now on Friday when y'all go home tomorrow, if your marketing people send you an email going, oh, by the way, we're going to be running a promotion today at 1 o'clock, and we just sent a push message to all of our users, you're going to know if you're going to have a problem or not, right? Or you're like, okay, yeah, we're good. Or you can proactively going, you know what, I know where our limit is now because I've done the testing ahead of time with real user data. I need to go ahead and get a team together. We need to start getting resources together and get in front of the problem before we impact our customers, before we impact our business, and before we have people up at 3 a.m. in the morning, okay? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say one thing before we open it up for Q&A. There's a huge thanks to my Dallas team here. So Brandon's part of my team. You see him here. So thank you to Brandon for helping me not drive off the stage. But also 2 other guys on my team, Clint and Jeff. This is probably the closest they will ever get to a stage. I had a fight with them to get this picture up here. But they are a huge part of our team success and learning and figuring out things and going, just trying to push the envelope. And this whole thing is made together by a team. So it's not just one person, it's not just me, it's not just Brandon looking good up here like Vanna White, it's a whole team effort, and without them, I wouldn't be here. So I'm eternally grateful for them. So I'm gonna open up for Q&A here right now, but before we start, I have Nancy, and I have Lori. Yes, got it. I messed up the names earlier. And they have mics that they are going to pass around for questions. So just hold your hand up, and they'll get you a mic. So just hold on your questions until you get the mic. Because we are recording the session, I want to make sure your question gets recorded. Because if somebody else is coming back and watching this later, your question could be the question that they have, and I want to make sure they also don't miss out. Okay? So with that, we'll open it up for questions and go from there. All right. Gentleman in the white shirt, all right.
Hi. What kind of statistics does it gather? Can you show how it looks like?
So I'm going to make sure I heard your question. What kind of statistics were we looking for specifically?
Yes.
So a lot of what we do is transaction-based. So we're looking specifically at the, kind of the ratio of those calls coming in, the different transactions, and specifically the different, maybe the different flows of transactions that happen, and how those change over time. Maybe they change with different marketing campaigns and things like of that nature. And that's where we went through, got our logs, and really like, okay, let's look at our data and see what we think was happening to what was actually happening. We had a pretty good idea, but there was a couple things that we found when through this process that were like, oh, okay. Well, we weren't exactly expecting that, but okay, we're gonna add stuff to our tests now because we didn't think originally that was happening. And we've done similar things for our mobile app as well.
So does it show what response time was, average response time, minimum, maximum, something like this?
Okay. So yeah, okay. I'm trying to think how to. So more from like a SLA perspective, I think is what we were looking for. Okay, so we do have some contractual obligations as far as response times to that. So when we looked at that, we were looking at response times, looking at over the total number of calls that are happening to when they are happening during the day. Is it early in the morning? Is it in the afternoon, late at night? Is it East Coast versus West Coast, right? That makes a difference too, as our product is across the whole nation. So yes, SLAs are important. We've actually, for many of our contractual SLAs, we've actually built that into our standardized testing suite, into the SLA check. So as those average response times are actually gathered as part of our standard suite, it's automatically checking, okay, are we below a comfortable error percentage? Are we good with our max response times? Are we good with our average response time? And things of that nature. So we are going through and checking those, and then for things that we don't have, we just kind of set internal goals. Like, hey, this is a really good thing I think we should shoot for, and we work from there. Great question, man. Yes. All right, over here on the left.
Hey, Taylor, thanks for the very informative session.
Thank you.
So 2 questions. So one is the Akamai cloud test.
Mm-hmm.
So Can you simulate these tests to be run from certain countries or certain geography?
Yes, that is a great question. So can we simulate this test to be run from certain geographical areas, maybe in the States or around the world, correct?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So with Akamai Cloud Test, you can. So with load servers, you can actually spin up like servers that are going to run these tests to your environment, and kind of whatever cloud provider that you have linked up. So you can, for us, we can spin them up in North Virginia. We can go to California. If we needed to go to Frankfurt, to London, to Tokyo, we could do that, all having it come into our system from different dynamic areas. We can also, if you're doing mobile testing, there is ways where you can actually simulate the reception you're getting. Is it 2G? Is it 3G? Is it 4G? You can simulate kind of packet drops along the way as well. And then you can actually split your test up too. So I want my standard test, I want 80% of it to run on the East Coast and 20% on the West Coast. Okay, I can throw 2 servers on the West Coast and 8 on the East Coast, 10 servers, and it's going to run all the traffic, blending it all together to our host. So yes, you can do geographical location testing.
Actually, you did answer my second question too. That was related to the internet speed. Thank you.
Cool, you're welcome. Gentleman here in the middle table, blue shirt. And then somebody else behind it. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Quick question. Great presentation so far.
Thank you.
As far as the data in the back end, do you guys have issues with test data management? And if you're running scheduled tests over and over again, is it bloating the database or making circumstances that wouldn't exist otherwise in the real world? And would that affect the post that gets, the speed for that?
Okay, so just to restate your question, make sure I understand it, is our scheduled testing, if we do it repeatedly over and over and over, does all that extra data in our backend kind of database where we're storing everything, does that start affecting our test? I think you really have to look at kind of your testing environment and play around with it. I think we have found that limit for ours, but we actually refresh our performance environment on a periodical basis. Okay. So that way we keep from getting this really out of whack data set to production, and that way we're testing as close to as possible all the times. But yeah, that is something you do need to be at least aware of and conscious, and it's probably good in the early stages to go figure out where that is, right? So if you do get into a crunch where you got multiple initiatives, they all need testing, you can say, okay, we can do this, but at this point, okay, we're done. We have to refresh because we were just too far out of alignment.
Yep.
Good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, 1 3/4. All right, guys, well, I'm going to give you guys some time back in your day. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you learned something. If you have some other questions that you want to ask me offline, you'll see me tooling around, so grab me, grab Brandon. We'll be happy to talk to you about performance testing and how this all works together. So thank you, guys.